I'm 68 years old now, and I have to admit, sometimes that number still catches me off guard. It doesn't feel real until I notice the small things, like how I pause before standing up, or how walking across a room takes just a bit more thought than it used to. Living this long doesn't change you all at once. It happens gradually, almost quietly, in ways you don't really notice until one day you realize you're no longer rushing through life the way you once did. You wake up in the morning and find yourself sitting a little longer, noticing the soft light on the floor, the warmth of a cup in your hands, the distant sound of a neighbor sweeping their porch. Silence, I've learned, isn't empty anymore. It feels, full in a way I didn't understand when I was younger. When you're young, you argue a lot about ideas, about beliefs, about who's right and who's wrong. I certainly did. For many years, I argued about God as if it were my responsibility to defend something fragile, as if certainty itself were a kind of armor that could protect me from doubt or confusion. I remember a dinner in my 30s, sitting at a crowded table where the room smelled of roast chicken and conversation bounced easily from one subject to another. Someone said something about God that didn't line up with what I believed, and I felt that familiar tightening in my chest, the urge to speak, to explain, to correct. So I did. The conversation turned into an argument, quiet at first, then sharper, more certain. Later, driving home with the windows cracked open and streetlights passing one by one, I told myself I'd done the right thing. But when I walked into the quiet house and sat alone, I realized I felt strangely empty, as if nothing had really been gained. Over time, I began to notice a pattern. Those arguments never brought comfort, never brought peace, and never truly changed anyone's heart. They only left people tired, including me. When I got married, I carried that habit with me. I believed faith was something that could be damaged if left undefended, and that staying quiet meant letting something important slip away. My wife, though, had a different way of seeing things. She listened patiently, rarely interrupting, and later, when the house was calm, she would say something simple like, "People believe the way they do for reasons we may never fully understand." At the time, I thought she was avoiding the conversation. Now I see she was teaching me how to listen. By my 50s, life started offering lessons I hadn't asked for. Friends grew sick, some recovered, and some didn't. I spent long hours in hospital rooms filled with the smell of clean sheets and the quiet hum of machines, where arguments about belief felt incredibly small. I remember sitting beside a friend I'd known since childhood, holding his hand while we said very little. We didn't debate God. We didn't search for answers. We just sat there together, and somehow that silence felt honest, almost sacred. As the years passed, I found myself noticing smaller things. The way sunlight moves through the kitchen in the morning, the steady warmth of a cup of tea, the low hum of a ceiling fan, or the sound of children laughing somewhere outside. Even ordinary days began to feel meaningful. Sometimes I sit by the window and watch shadows move slowly across the floor, or I close my eyes and remember the faces of old friends who are no longer here. And instead of sadness, I feel a quiet gratitude that they were ever part of my life at all. Faith, if that's still the right word for it, stopped feeling like an argument I needed to win. It became something gentler, less demanding, more like a presence than an idea. At 68, I see it clearly now. I didn't stop believing. I just stopped arguing. Belief isn't something you conquer or prove. It doesn't need defending in every conversation, and it doesn't grow louder when you raise your voice. These days, when someone talks about God in a way that's different from mine, I listen, not to respond, not to persuade, but simply to listen. Sometimes people are angry, sometimes confused, sometimes just tired, and I recognize all of it because I've been there myself. I've learned that peace doesn't come from being right, it comes from being gentle. So if you've spent years arguing, maybe tonight you don't have to. You can set it down for a while. You don't need to defend anything. You don't need to explain yourself. You can simply be. If this helped you, consider subscribing so you don't lose it. Take care. Be well.